Dinner prep time is just not the right time for this meeting. It goes right out of my brain. So, okay, what are we doing?
We're moving on the agenda.
Okay.
Meeting is called to order. John regrets that he is unable to attend tonight due to some family stuff. So thoughts going to him, and we're all here. Let's get some work done. Introduction of visitors. There are no visitors I see. So then we'll move on to the consent agenda. So we'll have the agenda for this meeting, September 28th, and then the minutes from the previous meeting, which are attached, and then bills submitted for the end of August, beginning of September. So a note on minutes as well. At the next meeting, we'll have the July minutes that will be ready to be adopted. So I apologize for that, but I've had tons of computer problems, and my notes for what I took in July have not been in the same place as my computer for a very long time. So now they are, and so I'm going to get it done so that I don't have to worry about it. So anyway, consent agenda. We have those 3 items on there. Unless someone would like to pull something for consideration, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'm going to make a teeny tiny itsy bitsy little change to the agenda, which is just the next meeting is today's date. So I'll make it be October 26.
Got it. Is that what you were looking at, Helen?
I saw that.
Oh, you're still
Helen, you're muted though. Helen, you're still muted.
Up there. Okay. Did anybody guess what I was talking about? No. Okay.
The date.
I would like to move that we accept the consent agenda with the date of the next meeting changed to actually October the 26th.
I'll second that. Jay, you're on mute.
We'll get this. We will get this. So I'm just making notes here. Okay, so we got a motion by Helen, and we've got a second by Dave. And so now we'll take it to a roll call vote. So we'll just start at the top of my list and go down. So we've got Dave, your vote.
Aye.
Helen, your vote.
Aye.
Chris, your vote. She's probably muted.
Aye. Yeah, I figured it out. Okay, aye.
And I am an aye as well, so the consent agenda passes unanimously. Okay, great. So then Library Friends Liaison Report. Chris, do you have any report for us on that? Because I believe Chris is our connection for that. Muted.
You may be on mute.
Okay. Library Friends will be meeting later in October to discuss an application form to be sent out to the four schools plus the public library, and ask for their input on what they would like to spend funds on and the amount, and then we will pursue that in October. So that's where we are.
That's good. Very good.
Okay, great. All right, I'm just making notes. Next thing that we have on the Well, does anybody have any questions for Chris about Library Friends stuff?
I do.
Go for it.
Yeah,
What's
is
up,
that
Dave?
that's great news. It seems, is that a normal process, or is this, it sounds like a new process?
No, this is a normal process. We put out application forms and ask people. It's very simple, just to say, what do you want to do, and how much do you need, and then we go from there. So, but this is our standard practice. It's just a little later in the fall than normally we would, but we knew people were very, very busy with getting school up and running in the beginning of September, so we didn't think it was worth sending out application forms at this point.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
ALS board report. So Helen, what do you got for us?
Okay, well, I attended a webinar on supporting voter turnout, and the Secretary of State, Steve Simonson, was the featured presenter, and that was really great. That he was, and that the presentation that he, that he contributed, since he is the Secretary of State, was great. It was organized by Hannah Buckland, and she's a state library program specialist. I want to get that out because I want to give her credit, because she's been following through. And the webinar, there is a recording of the webinar, and that's would be available, and we could have that at some time to share. I don't mean that I'm sending it to you. You may have all the information, but it's surprising when you have it all in one packet. And the people that attended were not only trustees as myself, but they were the library staff all over the state. And so it was really informing librarians how they can have all of that information for a nonpartisan encouragement to get out the vote, which I'm all for.
Cool. Anything else?
No, that was it. Well,
Great.
I would say, because we're going to be talking about it, I just checked out. We have 27 libraries in ALS, public libraries. There are many more libraries, but the public libraries, and 12 of them have some degree of openness, and 15 are not yet open. So the fact that we're going to be discussing that later is of interest.
Okay. So 12 libraries in the ALS. What does that mean, having some kind of openness? Does that mean people allowed inside the building, or does that mean like what we're doing?
No, that means that they have that. No, we are a closed library.
Okay.
It means that they have people in their building under certain kinds of restrictions, and they're different from, for different locations. But Two Harbors and Silver Bay both allow people inside their building. It's two that would be closest to us that we might, be interested in. Knowing,
Okay.
I personally do not know what their procedures are, how they made it up their minds for us to have, or for them to open their building, but they have, I'm sure, they're masked and sanitation, but whether they have patterns of how people can move around or how long they can be in, or that kind of information, I don't know.
Okay. So we fall into that category of a closed library.
Yes.
Any other questions for her on the ALS board report? Oop. Okay, well, seeing none of those, thank you, Helen. Also, you had you circulated that email about the money that Arrowhead has. We'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for getting us that information as well.
I think it's very valuable in thinking that there can be something that to put together as kind of a conclusion to what that whole program was intended to be, and make it so it would be throughout the ALS. I guess if actually they can download it any place in the state and find out about the whole program and what each of the communities did, and how that the intention of having community people involved in that, and that it's emphasizing the arts. I am all for that.
Cool. All right. So then we'll move right along. So now we're on the director's report. So Amanda, take it away.
So I was hoping to touch base about the 2020 strategic action plan with all of you, just to see if you had any follow-up questions or feedback comments on that. So basically what I was talking about at the last meeting was we never really finalized, I think, the 2020 action plan, but you can be confident that we were working on it all along and that we've done quite a bit of work toward our strategic goals. And so that's where we would get, that's what I turned into you was 2020 stuff. My next movement would be to try to give you something to look forward to for 2021 in taking into consideration that we're still in the midst of a pandemic and everything takes so much more effort. And did you want to respond about the 2020 information that I shared?
Amanda, I would like to comment on the way that you included the One Book, One Minnesota as part of the outreach for, and when I read that, I thought this is such a perfect kind of example of how we can work with larger groups of community people. And I want to comment favorably on David Grant. I thought that he was a wonderful moderator, presenter, and just absolutely full of all sorts of history that really helped me, and I hope other people that attended the One Book, One Minnesota that you organized.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I just appreciated the update with the action plan with the pandemic. Just having that in the plan, just some of the steps that have been taken since the pandemic began. I just appreciated having that written down. I think that was really valuable to show.
Thank you.
I would agree. And also keeping in mind that the amount of effort that goes into accomplishing like really anything in the pandemic times, I do think that, as we look at the strategic plan for 2020 and try and make a plan for 2021, I think that we should probably be try and be very realistic about what is actually accomplishable. And I think that's going to be directly related to the next bullet point that we have, which is reopening. So unless there's more that needs to be said about the strategic action plan, I would like to also go back to some of the stuff that's in the director's report just to make sure we get all questions answered about that as well. But Amanda, did you have anything else you wanted to mention about the strategic action plan situation?
I think I'm on target here.
Okay.
What questions do you have about the director's report before I go forward to reopening conversations?
Well, I mainly just wanted to open up and see if anyone on the board has any questions about it. I really appreciate the way that you broke it down in 2 different categories. So, finance, the CARES Act funds, the CARES Act funds, just for the entire board's benefit, the city was given a little bit over $100,000 to deal with expenses that have to do with the COVID-19 pandemic, purchases and such. So the library has obviously had expenses that go into that. A lot of that is purchasing equipment and or modifying service so that you're able to meet needs with the new expectation. The other thing, there's going to be a second round of rules that are passed that will expand what that money can be used for. So that 225 expense code is it's going to be very short-lived, but it's what the city's using for their accounting for the CARES money across all of the different departments. So just so you all know, like where that is, and that spending window, as Amanda showed, is closing in mid-November. So that's good. Does anybody have any other questions about what we're about the director's report?
Jay, how is the city doing with their CARES money? You know?
Right now we've spent well, at the last report that we had to send, because we're supposed to send a report every month. The last report that we spent, or that we sent, reported that we had spent about a quarter of that money, just a little bit over a quarter of that money. So as more expenses come in, then I think that's gonna go away pretty quickly. But there are also some options about getting that money out to community businesses as well, and or to more public applications, to make sure that we can kind of anticipate the impacts of another pandemic. So we're working on that. But we still have money left. That's the point. We still have a significant amount of money left in that fund.
The same with the county, and so if I don't know how that works with the library. I guess it's the city organization, even though we are a partnership. But I didn't know if there would be a way to do some crossover there if necessary. It sounds like at this point it's not necessary. But I'm wondering, just reading the report about the use, and especially electronic use, I'm wondering if there are some things or if there's opportunities that the library could really double or quadruple down on to help families get access.
Mm.
And I don't have anything in mind necessarily, just if there's many more people using the Wi-Fi out of doors, if there's some kind of if service could be better, if there are bottlenecks or any tech issues there. Just brainstorming at this point.
And Amanda, you did put that in your report that there is a significant increase in people using the Wi-Fi around the building. So I'm assuming that all of those things that were purchased for that, TV trays for laptops, portable charger, those picnic tables and stuff like that, those all would fall underneath the CARES Act money, I believe.
They did. We also, when we purchased Zoom, I got an annual subscription, assuming we were going to offer other virtual programs. That's in the CARES Act. Right now, what we're purchasing is the plexiglass, is the stanchions to mark areas off, signs. We have some nice hand sanitizer stations and backup sanitizer products. I have some other grandiose ideas of what we could be doing with the money, but I have to be able to spend it. And I mean, I have to be able to implement everything that I'm bringing in also, or be able to store it afterwards. And so I definitely have been walking that fine line as I'm making my selections.
What kind of ideas have you come up with? I'm interested in what your pie in the sky ideas are.
We've talked about, okay, so storage is a problem. If we wanted to buy extra picnic tables, I think those can go to Parks and Rec. But if we were buying all sorts of dividers and plexiglass, like half walls to try to block people from breathing on each other at each of our computer stations, then when we don't need them for a little while, where does all that go? We're housing all this plastic. We thought about purchasing a little shed. I don't know where we'd put that on our property. Hotspots would be really fabulous, as David's talking about, trying to get the Wi-Fi access to customers in their home. I don't know enough about it to just go buy a bunch of hotspots and then implement them, circulating them. So a part of it is just our capacity is limited too.
Yeah, totally. That's interesting. Those are interesting things. It might be worth talking to, like, I don't know, maybe Jeremy Riddlebauer or somebody like that, to try and figure out if there's something we can do. we still have a little bit of time, but we also don't want to take that for granted because it's going to go away really fast.
Well, and yeah, another thing might be worth having a chat with True North to see what kind of limitations they have with pumping things out into the community. Don't know if there's room for partnerships there, but you know, if push came to shove, that could come possibly to the county as well for CARES Act funding. So, and I haven't really touched base with them on a official note, but I do know that they turned on some hot spots downtown in the spring for students, or that was the intention, is for students. And so I inquired a little bit about that up in my neighborhood, and it sounded like there were restrictions that they had to follow. They can't just go flipping on hotspots anywhere because there's costs associated with that. So I didn't know if there were other areas within the city that could use that close to the library or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know if there are bottlenecks. Maybe there's not. Maybe it's just a device issue.
I don't know whether this applies or not, but I have a hotspot here at the cabin, and Jeremy put it in, but it is connected to True North. The two things somehow integrate, and there was a cost, but it isn't very large. In other words, I can't go carrying things around out in the yard. It's really quite limited in area. But if we were doing that, it would seem that we might, and just as an idea, might want to have other organizations like where there is another parking lot or something, like perhaps a church, where there is some of our churches that have parking lots that could do similarly to what Amanda's area does. I don't know. It's just, it seems rather than having one that moves around, it would be one where people could count on it. Of course, that means that they have to go there. They can't be in the comfort of their own little cabin, situation. For what that's worth.
Like another idea that staff have come up with is replacing our drinking fountain with a bottle refiller, which would not only be great for people not touching a drinking fountain, it would be fabulous to reduce plastic in our community. But I cannot express to you how difficult it is to do anything right now. The book club that I did about killed me. So like, for example, if I want to feel good about buying a water fountain, I'm researching online what that would be. And we're looking at $3,000 to $6,000. Well, I don't know what the infrastructure of the wall is. The wall would have to be cleaned out. I have to talk to maintenance and see what their capacity is to install. It's just so hard to prioritize. And what I've been really looking at recently is just trying to get the doors open for core service, which is kind of what the next part of my conversation's about. I'm so excited about these ideas. Do you feel that it is a better path to look for options to spend the money ahead of being able to use the product?
No.
Say that again. I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Should I buy things on speculation, like go out and buy a water fountain because maybe it's a great idea to spend the money on it, but I haven't got the capacity to be making careful decisions? That's where I'm coming from.
I think the water fountain's a great idea, but I respect taking baby steps with the process and getting stuff in order. So it was just fun to brainstorm for a little bit. I just don't want to push things too far too fast.
I agree with Dave that the water fountain idea, I would love to see a bottle filling water fountain there, quite honestly, in all of our facilities, we should be having those bottle filling ones. But I understand what you're saying as well, Amanda, that things are really crunched right now. And as much as we can get done, the better off we'll be, as far as being prepared for the next time this happens. So, if there's any way that that's possible to get specifically the drinking fountain, a lot of the other stuff, as long as you're able to open up the library and feel good about it, then I think we're doing our work, right? It's a lot of places, if they don't have the bottle fillers, they don't even have the water fountains turned on, and that's a service as well that we have to keep in mind. So anyway, I mean, that's neither really here nor there, but we appreciate all the work that you're doing to put that CARES money to use.
And putting my 2 cents worth in, I think the application is equal to just spending the money. I mean, the idea that you can get it if you can't get it to work, if it's just going to be a commode stuck in a closet for 3 years, I mean, forget it.
What about air quality in the library? Where are things with that standing?
Yeah. So public health, when they came through, recommended that we look at whether or not we can circulate more air per hour using our HVAC. So I've asked Lenny, our building property maintenance person, to look into that for us. I don't have an answer. I also don't know how you prove that your air quality has been improved. Opening the windows, we're about at the end of the season for that. And frankly, the circulation has never been really great in this building. One of the ideas that I heard recommended on a PBS special was using home air purifiers. And so I've thrown a question out to public health to see if that's even does that actually help? Because that would be a great expense to throw in right now and have those on the way, plug them in and turn them on and already have better air quality. Unless anybody has any other fabulous ideas, I really don't know what to do to improve air quality in the library.
Yeah, I think it would require an air quality expert, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that public health is going to have a good answer for you. They're taking their information from the state, and I mean, so much is unknown and is always changing. One concerns I know that Grand Portage had with the casino is installing fans. They were actually trying to, I forget if it was dry some carpets or something, but when they installed the fans, then that actually could potentially cause harm because of blowing, air in where, I don't know, it just sounded like you never know what you're doing, butterfly effect. So yeah, I think you'd really need an expert to assess that. I mean, I don't know that Lenny's going to be able to give a good answer. I mean, I don't know what it
Okay,
takes.
I'll look into this more because I would love to have more support than not. And then in terms of blowing air, our air conditioning units were listed among things that should not be turned on in a closed building because they're blowing air around and they're circulating it. Mm-hmm. So the Dyson hand dryers, I've asked if we could get those shut off at the breaker. I don't know that we can, so I'm down to putting plastic bags over that. And getting back to our drinking fountain will be covered for a while. Why is everybody doing that? Is it just because they don't want people to I think it's because you don't want people putting their mouth on it.
Good contact, yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where we are with air quality and ventilation. It's just turning a bunch of stuff off, asking questions, and doing this.
Yeah, right. Lenny will be able to tell you what the like the volume of air exchange is under normal circumstances with the equipment that's currently in the library. Mm-hmm. But like you said, that building was built to be tight. Like, it's tight. It doesn't breathe well. It doesn't circulate well, and that's by design. So I feel like we might run into kind of a hard spot there with that air circulation thing. I would be really interested. Dave, I don't know how often you talk to the folks at Public Health, if they have any ideas for that, because I know you guys have been working on the courthouse and trying to get some access to the courthouse back. At City Hall, we're just doing our thing, and City Hall has worse air circulation than all the other buildings combined. I mean, like all the other worst things from the other buildings. So it's that one, I guess we're just kind of, in a certain way, just planning on not having a lot of volume in the City Hall and distancing everybody. But yeah, so that I would be interested in hearing what the county's got planned and whether or not those home air purifiers are actually a legitimate option. Because then you'd have to see what's their range for how many square feet they can treat regularly, and then how does that break down into the different areas of the library. But now we're starting to get a little bit off topic, but not really. I guess we're still kind of on topic. Is this like a good segue, Amanda, to talking about reopening, the actual reopening process?
Yeah, I think so. So I was working toward trying to get us open for computers by appointment by October 1st. I'm not sure I'm going to meet that date, but we're trying really hard.
Okay.
I can't believe, you guys, how interconnected every little thing is in this library. You try to move one little thing and everything else comes with it. I know I'm being generic, but so we've turned the lobby into a computer lab. It has 2 computer stations diagonal of each other, as far apart as they possibly can be, and the photocopier is now in the lobby near the drinking fountain. The idea here is that people need access to computers quite badly now. We are not all privileged to have Wi-Fi and computers in our home, and we have people trying to work outside in their labs to get their work done. We know that there is a huge demand for photocopy services and so on. So in terms of reopening, what I'm wanting to do is to use this space to offer computers by appointment. And I think we have figured out, I know that we have figured out how to clean and sanitize the space after use. I'm trying to figure out whether it's feasible to offer bathrooms. I don't know how you let people in a building for an extended stay, 30 minutes being our extended stay, and not give them an option, especially if you're booking them for an appointment. But that's the drinking fountain, that's the hand dryer, that's cleaning procedures, that's making sure my custodian is backing us up on all the cleaning standards as soon as we're letting people in the building. It's going to be really difficult to let someone into the building and not have them wonder about, ask questions about their account. So as soon as we do that, we also have to have our staff prepared to work with the public in a way that's all in compliance for an open situation, a more open situation. But once so we have the space. I have a message out to public health going, this is how I hope to use the space. Are you seeing anything that I need to be aware of here? We have the staff practices and procedures. We have the how the appointments work. And we have the preparedness plan, which has to be in place in advance. So I'm waiting to hear back from public health. I'm starting to take a look at our preparedness plan, and I'm preparing our staff for how the space will work. That's the next piece that I'm hoping to do in October, is just to offer limited computer access by appointment. So what this would look like is we'll have our normal operating hours, say 10 to 5, and during our computer access appointment times, folks would be able to book an appointment that would last about 30 minutes. We're talking about 2 people in an hour. And the appointment would be for 30 minutes. we're intentionally building in a little space for the person to leave the building comfortably. And then we have a 15-minute cleaning window before the next appointment starts. So this is about as low risk, low volume as I can go to offer the next level of service. Any thoughts here?
Have you thought about just purchasing laptops to check out?
We've thought about it. The issue then comes back to all of the setting it up and circulating it, whereas right now we're using the technology we're familiar with. Yeah, we can look at that.
I don't mean to burden you more. I'm just looking for simpler, easier solutions. So have you gotten any feedback from public health then?
Well, they've already visited us once and given us feedback. That's where we got the idea about HVAC, about increasing air circulation. But I'm waiting to hear what they have to say about the computer lab space, the lobby area.
Right. I almost wonder if, confined spaces are actually worse than open spaces. But I don't know how you keep staff safe that way, so I don't know. Are you feeling a lot of pressure to open fully? Hearing that 12 of the 27 public libraries are open surprised me, but hearing that there's 15 that are closed, I'm trying to err on the side of caution here. Everything I'm hearing, everything that I'm hearing in my world is like this. What did Mike, Doctor, what's his name, at the state, Oberholtz? No, not Oberholzer. Oster.
Osterholm.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mike Osterholm, Dr. Osterholm, is saying this is maybe the top of the fourth inning, and there's just such a strong push from certain businesses or individuals to get back to work and all that, and I'm just like, whoa, we're just getting started here, and the coronavirus is the third largest leading cause of death in the United States, and it's only been around for 9 months. So, I know we can do things safely. I know we can live somewhat normal lives, but I don't want to rush anything, and I really appreciate the work you're doing, and I hope you're not feeling a lot of pressure to just get open, because yes, that'd be nice, but the most important thing is the health and safety of staff and the public at large. So,
So it's really good hearing you say that. Absolutely, I'm receiving pressure. I am hearing from so many people in this community who are grateful just to have pickup service, but I'm also hearing a ton of feedback. The community doesn't understand, why is the library not open when everything else is, and so much is open. I also feel a responsibility to the community from the standpoint of being one of their services, especially where the technology is concerned, to do something and to be aware that winter's coming. So yeah, there's pressure.
Well, I think that that what you're doing, holding that line of making sure things are safe in all considerations, because the whole concept, if we look at the mission of the library is to remove barriers. And so one of the significant barriers that people are dealing with right now with COVID isn't that businesses are closed, it's that they feel uncomfortable using the businesses. So if we can work on creating a more, a very careful and comfortable environment for people, so that when they come in there, they know how to use it, they're able to participate, I think that's really valuable. Now, of course, the other side of that is, let's just act like everything's normal, and then more people can use it, and then that also meets our mission. So, that's really where it comes up to the board here to help direct this and say, how are we going to choose to do this? Our management staff here, our administrative staff, if you will, is taking a tack on this that is, based largely on communications that we've intimated in the past meetings. So if there's another direction that we want to go with this, I think we need to be very clear about that, or else like we are basically trusting Amanda and Kristen to hold this line, and we will support them in doing that, so that we can have whatever level of service is safe be the level of service that we're able to provide. So that's where I'm coming from it. I don't know if that sparks any more conversation from anyone else, but
I'm curious. Excuse me. I'm curious about the pressure. Is this coming from readers? Is this coming just for, I shouldn't say just for technology, but is it primarily the need to be in the library to use the technology? Or is where is the pressure coming from? I'm not muted.
I'll be careful. No, I've heard you.
Okay, excuse me.
I'll be careful not to generalize, because when I say the community is telling me, they're telling me everything, right? I'm hearing everything. But I am definitely getting many more comments from the community who is using the library or who would like to use the library. I'm hearing all about their frustration that they can't browse. I'm hearing about the limitation of photocopying services, access to the internet. I'm also hearing what people want back in terms of the things that I can't give them. So I'm hearing that there are so many youths right now at home who are doing homeschooling at home. It would be great if they had another place to go to do their homework. It'd be really great if people who need office space had that safe place to go where they could go and work on the computer for an extended period of time. I'm hearing that people miss communicating with one another, and they miss the community orientation that happens at the library. In other words, they're missing that space to socialize. Those are things I can't give them. And those are things that the library is here, that has been here doing so well. We've been giving people office space. We've been giving them technology access. We've been giving them opportunities to socialize, connect, and meet. We've been giving them a third home, a second home, a third place. So it's not that I want to blow the doors off the hinges, but the community is asking for more, and especially to be allowed into the building and not be standing outside of a pickup window, kind of communicating with a staff person.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I want to be cautious about moving forward. When we talk about other libraries being open, in Arrowhead library system, if not across the state, so just for some comparison, Anoka County is completely open. Douglas County is completely open to services, allowing people into the building for full services. In Arrowhead, we're 12-15. And what's happening is some libraries are completely open. Hoyt was very excited to just completely reopen their library again. You've heard that Two Harbors and Silver Bay are also open to the public. Their facility is. But then you have a myriad other picture of people who have computers by appointment or browsing by appointment. And so that's where I'm falling in. I'm going, this is the next level of risk that I could absorb, that I feel that I could do safely for our community moving toward having a reopened picture.
I think that I support you in that. I don't know where the rest of the board is on that, but I think that is a very logical way to move forward.
Since I'm not a person who's even used the pickup window, mostly because I've always felt that The librarians have been so extremely busy that if I can do something that I can just pop in and get what I need and generally say hello to people I like, but not stay there and socialize and certainly not spend much time browsing. So my use of the library has always been more hesitant than I think that what you've described people using, the way that they use the library and want to use the library. I love going to the presentations. Like, I'm going to miss movies like crazy whenever we can't have the movies, but I know we can't have the movies. So I would say that for the individuals who don't have a place for their child to do homework, have got to figure out something for themselves. I mean, this is the library. I really want you to be safe. I really want there not to be a case of COVID coming out of Cook County that's associated with our library, because we have a building that doesn't have good air circulation, or that we have not the services that people demand that we can do safely. So I suppose I do want you to walk with very tiny tiptoes quietly if in doing this. But I think what you are planning is very reasonable. I think that you are being cautious. I think you are asking the right questions.
So let's look at what you just said a minute ago. I don't want the library to be the place where the COVID-19 case happens. I don't either. My staff certainly don't want to be a part of that. But I have to tell you that, okay, and I'll put this in context. I'm looking at the CDC website all the time, trying to get the best guidance that I can get for opening the library, and they don't address libraries.
No.
And we are a multi-use space, as I'm trying to tell you. Like, I can't move this piece without that piece coming along with it.
Right.
I can't open the door without the bathrooms coming with it. And when I was looking at bars and restaurants, which are social environments which offer places to sit down and stay for a while, they talk about risk. And they say the absolute lowest risk a business can absorb is pickup window only, or curbside pickup only. The next one is pickup window services, plus you can come inside to order something. So now it's kind of like a Dairy Queen. You can come inside to order, and then you wait outside to pick up your food. The next one is that people sit down and they stay in your space for a while. And that would have to have the table spaced so far apart, and you only take your mask off when you're eating. And then the maximum risk right now for a restaurant or bar would be that you have people sitting in your area less than 6 feet apart for extended stays. So when I'm talking about opening the door at all, we're increasing the risk. We are increasing the chance that COVID-19 is going to come, and it might happen, and I can't protect us from that. I can't.
Yeah.
So if the board, so let's talk about this a little bit. Some boards are deciding that they make policy and they are providing policy guidance to the library. So I'm talking about operations. I'm talking about how they're going to come in, how they're going to use, they're going to have their face mask. They're going to sanitize their hands. They're going to be here for 30 minutes. They're going to talk to my staff this way. Some boards have taken the option of deciding that this is a long-term strategic issue, that we are planning a long-term response to an emergency, and they're going to provide the library some guidance within they want to work. I was just listening to a webinar today where the guidance that one board provided their library was, we expect public health to come first, and if those issues aren't fully addressed, then we can't take the next step, which is library services. So they're setting the priority, public health, library service, and then the director has to function within that framework. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm just trying to provide you, I'm trying to provide you the scope, which is in my head that I don't know how to share with everybody else or whether I even should. You know, okay, I'll
Well,
let you respond.
my take on it, and board, speak up to, if I'm reading the room wrong, but I believe that the take that I'm getting from at least the majority of the board members is that, like, you're doing the right things. You're taking the right tack, starting at the extreme cautious side and slowly working your way up as you feel comfortable is the way that the board wants you to move on this. So I think it's really encouraging that you have the context of what other libraries are doing, and that you can potentially see how that could work in our space. But I do think that the appropriate way to reopen the library is like what you're saying, is very slow, very methodical. Viewing it as a as a gradual staged reopening, based on what we can offer safely, and putting public health first is, I find it very hard to argue with. And so, I mean, unless board members, unless you have something else to say that would contradict that, then I think you know where you're going. So what do you think, board? Shake heads, nod heads, circle them.
I haven't heard from Chris.
I was trying to get unmuted. I also agree with what you've been doing. I think the slow but steady route is a good one. I think you should not feel pressured to move forward, no matter what the public is saying. I am sympathetic with the public. I appreciate what they want, but we just can't have it all right now. Lots of people want lots of things, and it's just not going to work. And jeopardizing other people's health and safety, it's just not appropriate. So it's the whole mask debate. It's the whole opening stores debate. You're right in the middle of it. And I think going slowly and steadily, as you have been, Amanda, is the way to do it. I'm in full support. So that's where I am with that.
Yeah, and I concur too. Helen, do you want to say something? Oh, okay.
I wanted to say that I really sympathize with Amanda on this, in particular, that there are no guidelines for libraries. I mean, you can read as much as you want to read and as far and as you wish to read, and you're not going to find any place that they tell you how a library opens. Every time it's left to, in this case, Amanda as a director, or whoever is running the library, and their particular boards and their particular place. I mean, so it is, we are left with that. We as a board are left with that in trying to support Amanda and what she needs. And of course, we're not feeling the pressure. Some of us are not identified as board members, so we are, aren't therefore getting what she is getting. And it's very hard, especially since Amanda is a librarian, and guess what librarians like to do. So I just wanted to say to the board and to give Amanda the support that she really doesn't have a pathway that is supported by any particular guidelines specific for libraries.
Absolutely. I mean, we're figuring this out as we go, right? And literally every library, because of their layouts, is going to have different rules about how they can use the space. One of the examples that comes to my mind, and it's analogous in the comparison, but not in the subject matter. Our liquor store is just terrible for providing service, whereas if you go to like a Total Wine store, they're completely open. Like, they're completely nothing unusual. Just put a mask on, go in and grab what you want, and then leave. And our library has certain pinch points. Our other libraries are much more open, but all the stacks and all those areas are very constricted spaces. Like we have to basically recreate the wheel every single time for every library because they're all different like that.
Well, and how do you see us relating to the liquor store? Because from my point of view, if we had an air circulation problem or a proximity issue, my gosh, they've got it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what they've chosen to do at the liquor store is basically to leave the door open for the entire time, and just eat the heat loss. And it's and they have somebody standing at the door basically to like tell everyone how this works. And if they're not willing to do that, then they just won't let them in. And so they put like the gruffest person at the door because they want to make sure that if people are willing to come in, that they know what's expected of them. But
Well, I think that some I'm hearing you. I'm mostly just being just discussing now.
Mm-hmm.
So the liquor store doesn't put their gruffest person. They have 2 people staffed. They both huddle behind the plexiglass, and they do let people know what they expect when they come in, but they're not right at the door letting them know exactly either. They're behind the counter. I have seen places that have door guards. That seems to work the best. I don't know. Sorry, I'm going in both directions, but that's kind of what my head has been doing too, because it's so hard. I was very disappointed that the Minnesota Department of Education in their last multi-page documenting and declaring what schools should do or what considerations or precautions they should have, had a paragraph this big that said we're leaving libraries to local control. And I've spoken to Jen Nelson before about my concern about libraries being completely left out, in my view, and from guidance from the entities that are overlooking other agencies that like schools to which we are related. But it's a mess. It's heavy.
Yeah, I would. I guess first off, I need to share with the board that I received communication, a phone call from a resident who said she was practically in tears because the library isn't open. And, I said, well, you can check stuff out. They have the pickup window. There's digital things available. And she's like, no, we need to congregate. And I said, well, no, that's exactly what we can't do. We can't be congregating. That is not an option. And I'm sorry that this affects you. So we're all going through this, and we're all going through different things in different ways, and we're going to get through it. But right now we just can't do that. So I just needed to share that first. But she wanted me to share her views that we do need to share it with the board that we need to open. And we had a good conversation. What I was going to say before you go too far, Amanda, and maybe you've already done this, but I would just go to each business and ask them how it's gone, because my understanding is it's gone terribly. It just the enforcement, the confrontation, the restrictions need enforcement. Nobody has their bathrooms open. Like that's you need additional cleaning staff to do that on top of the bouncer. You pretty much need a bouncer to keep all the restrictions in place. So I'm super hesitant with opening things up. If you feel that we need to, I think you're right. The next step would be by appointment. I think looking into laptops is a safer way to go to check out and to distribute if tech is the biggest issue. But I think a lot of it is just wanting that human connection of going and doing normal things and having our human interactions. And we just can't do that right now. And it's early on. We're still learning lots of stuff. But yeah, I think we're going to be learning a lot more harder things in the near future. And it's just kind of ramping up again here. So I'm proud of this community and how it's responded thus far, despite a lot of the conflicts and difficulties. I think we're doing quite well, just by the numbers. But one another big factor too is just asymptomatic people. And I mean, I'm assuming when you're having people come in by appointment that we're doing health screenings, and that's another added layer that staff would have to cover. And then there's the whole air quality thing too. So yeah, we can. I mean, there are certain steps and certain things that we can do to make sure we're doing everything as healthy and as safe as possible. And I think we should work towards that. But I don't think we should be in any hurry to accomplish certain benchmarks at any certain time. So I'll
Right.
support you in how you feel things need to move. But I'm real hesitant, and just wanting us to be cautious because we are talking about public health. It's not my health, it's not your health, it's everybody's health and the most vulnerable's health that we're really trying to watch out for. So, but hey, mental health is in there too. We need to stimulate our minds. We need to have civil discourse. And so how do we do that? It's going to be different. I don't know.
So I think that that's pretty clear. Like Amanda, I think that we'll check in on this pretty much every meeting, I'm sure, and just kind of weigh in with you on how things are going and what we've been hearing from the community, and what's happening in the rest of the library communities to make sure that we're staying on an appropriate approach. But I echo what Dave says, and I think that that's what I'm hearing from the rest of the board as well. Don't put any dates or any kind of deadlines on this. Make sure that it's safe. Go forward with that. Make sure we can offer the services that we can offer safely, and then we'll move with it as more information comes out. So as far as reopening goes, I think that's probably where the board is sitting, and you can take that consideration and go with it. So
I would like to just add the board, or maybe Amanda as well. Dave's idea of having more computers should we really be exploring that? There should be some, I mean, they seem to be able to go in the library at ISD 166 to the library there and have classes, and they just get handed out these little computer, I don't know what they're called, whether they're mini pads or what they are, but they are able to go online. They can order their books themselves from the ALS library and from the state. They can go do catalog search and so forth. I realize that one of the things you're saying, Amanda, is that business people want to use the library as an office. And maybe that shouldn't be a priority, although it is one of the goals for the library. One of the services that the library does provide is not only job search, but also being able to use the library in that way. But Dave brought up the idea of computers, and I'm thinking about that and wondering if we should explore that. Okay.
Yeah, I love David's ideas. Thank you, David. Hotspots and laptops and finding new ways to help the community. I loved, Helen, too, your idea of finding ways to partner with other organizations like a church or something to see if we could extend their Wi-Fi into their parking lot. We can and will pursue that. I'm remembering the iPads was a totally different scenario, right? Because we didn't have the pandemic, but we kept purchasing fleets of iPads. We kept getting them updated and trying to circulate them. I had 2 people who continuously used them and no one else used them. Now, maybe it was the choice in technology. Maybe iPads are not what people who need access to computers are prepared to use. Maybe it is a laptop computer. But then I come back also to the fact that the person needing the laptop may also need the Wi-Fi. And then we're back to the winter conversation. And then we're back to access. So I want to be clear that I'm open to these ideas, and I'm definitely interested in pursuing them, but I can't tell you how long it's going to take because there are going to be so many pieces. As soon as you put a piece of technology in someone's hand, then we're talking about data privacy. The iPads, I ultimately discontinued them because of their low use, but also because of how long it took to reset them and restabilize them after each use. And as soon as the thing gets an update, it messes with its memory of going back to the setup thing. And so I can't even delegate it. It has to be the technician who knows how to deal with every new update that comes in and interferes with the software that's protecting the data from being reserved on the computer. So, and this might be a great option for our 2021 action plan.
Let's figure this out. Right?
Yes, let's figure this out. But it won't happen as quickly as I could open a door and say, come in and use the stuff that's here that we already know we can protect.
Yeah, apples are certainly special as far as everything is concerned. Maintenance, updates, just the whole system, integration with other systems. They're unique. So the schools use Chromebooks. Chromebooks don't have personal information stored on them. It's just RAM. And so in order to store information, you have to have a little USB stick. I haven't been impressed with Chromebooks' performance. PCs for people, I know there's a huge demand for that right now, but they offer like enterprise business laptops for a decent price. And I just know from my computer lab background that you can just, and this is probably what you're doing with the iPads as well, is just kind of wipe it and then reboot, and you can do that just as I think they call it ghosting. Before, ghosting was ignoring phone calls, but Jeremy should know all about that and could do it lickety split. And right now we have the funding to do those kinds of things, and they are safer. And yeah, you're right. It is definitely more of a hassle than opening doors. And so, I don't think it's the way to go, but it's something to look into if you find time.
Okay.
With your endless amounts of time.
Yeah. The other aspect
Right.
I was going to say is just what I can see is like, yeah, here's your appointment, and then like somebody comes with their 3 kids, and they're like, well, I can't leave them in the car. They have to come in too. Or, that kind of thing. I mean, that's what's happening at stores oftentimes, is like, well, no, it's one customer. And then there's a big blow up because no, there's more than one of us, and we all need to go in, there's those kinds of conflicts that are just every day. And I see the library. I mean, I guess I'd say most of my experience at the library is after school with like hordes of kids, so that can't happen. And so it just seems difficult to walk that line. And I mean, the only feedback that I've gotten was from that one resident, and that was just, this past Friday. And so, Amanda, you're getting way more feedback than any of us, no doubt. And so, please feel free to share that with us too, because that can help help us change our minds, or help us adapt to the situation or whatever. But I just frankly, well, maybe it's just because I whine too much, but I haven't been getting much feedback at all lately. So let alone the library opening up. But
Okay,
I've talked
great.
enough.
Could I say, just quickly, I wanted to say one of the things we left off when we talked about the idea of checking out computers was also having to sanitize them. It's, it's mostly the computer stuff, but we can't forget that as well, that they would have to be sanitized and in a very complete way, and they're electronic. So that's another piece to add to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would restart the whole conversation about, that we had with the iPads as well, about the abuse of technology, liability, all those sorts of things as well. I'm not sure we're quite there yet. I agree with Amanda that, as we're going through these projects, we should take them one at a time, and we should think them through quite thoroughly to make sure they're the most the most effective that they can be. I like the idea of the hotspot thing, if that's even possible. That's still not going to work for everybody in this county, considering that there's a number of people in this county that don't even have cell service. But if we can start ticking off like how this, how we can meet needs here, there, and everywhere, then hopefully we'll get to a more or less holistic approach. I have another meeting at 7, and I'm committed to staying here until we're done. But I'm just going to throw out there one last conversation. Is there anything else we need to talk about on this subject before we move on? Because I think we could probably, get very, very quickly get into the minutia of, doing Amanda's job for her, and I don't want to get there.
You sure?
But we'd like to help, but it's not really our deal. So that's. Is there any final comments or anything else you can think of for that? Okay. Well, if you feel, I hope that's enough information for you to get a move on. So, I think that the board supports you, so that's good. So let's move on then. We'll move on to committee reports. So our three committees don't have any reports, which moves us through that pretty quickly. In communications, we had 2 letters. We
Hey,
had
Jay.
Oh, yep. What? Yep. Go ahead.
Does the personnel committee have anything you need from me right now?
There isn't. No. We need to get together and we need to talk about that assessment, and that's pretty much all that we have to do. So.
Okay. Thanks.
So we'll work on convening the personnel committee so that we can make that happen. I'll make a note of that.
Okay. I sent you a note because I thought maybe I'd missed something, but we do have in the guidelines for the director's evaluation, we do have input from the board as a whole, and I don't know how that might be done. I was thinking that maybe we might have whenever you have a personnel discussion and you would have a closed meeting like we did in one case previously. So since there's such a few number of us on the board at the current time, whether that might be a possibility or, well, anyway, I'm throwing it out as an idea, but not only is the personnel committee to do their particular perceptions of the library director, but also input from the rest of the board.
From the whole board.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, I sent you something and I have an attachment. I don't know if it would be helpful or not, but it is from our policies and documents section. Okay.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that as well. I do believe that it's the the core purpose of the personnel committee is to convene that process. So probably a meeting with the personnel committee to make sure that we have it understood how we want to proceed, and then just put it in motion. So, at the next meeting, we probably, we'll have some kind of an update on that, whether that be, the and the form will be sent out to all of the board members before that meeting so that we can compile feedback, or that it's in process and we'll go through the process that was identified and then have it by November. So I think, to my memory, that's how we moved through it in the past. So, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Since there's five of how many of us are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mhm.
We missing 2 people? Yeah, we're missing 2.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay, we should get on that too. Not to change the subject.
Let's
But,
do that and
yes.
move on to new business.
Yes. So for the personnel committee, expect to get an invitation to meet, and we'll sit down and create our plan for the director's review. Okay, moving on. Communications. There's the Minnesota St. Paul Fund statement and the memo from ALS reporting of the possible $12,000 for an art project in 2021. So those are the communications that we have. Unfinished.
Correction. Grand Marais will not get $12,000. Grand Marais has already had its $12,000. After those libraries that have not done their $12,000 art community experience will get the funds in addition. So instead of there being legacy programs for the Grand Marais Public Library, we will be getting the funds from legacy that are beyond what those, I don't know how many libraries have not yet spent their $12,000. But I don't want us as a board to think that we have an additional $12,000 to spend. But we have some funds that can go toward, I don't know, we've got the puzzle walk, the poetry walk, that I don't know. I don't know what it would be spent for, or whether it be new stuff, but I just want that to be clear.
Okay.
Everybody got that? No $12,000.
Clear. All right. So then I made the amendment in the minutes for that then too. No unfinished business, new business. So the trustee terms of service. So go ahead, Amanda. You had something for this.
This time last year is when Steve came to the board and said, this is where we take a look at whose term is ending, whether they'd like to renew, and whether anyone whose term is still, their service term is still ongoing, but they no longer can serve the board. This is where we need to discuss that. So our Helen is maxing out of her terms of service in December, and so we'll be off of the board as of December, if that's how it works, if it's a clear cut. And so then I would be asking if Chris or John felt that they were unable to continue with their terms of service, if you could send me an email and I can start letting the city or county know appropriately of the need for trustees.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So then Chris, you should probably tell them what your intentions are, and then I can follow up with John.
We can do that in email
Do
too.
you want an email, Amanda, to whatever effect?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. Just making notes. Cool. And then the Sidewalk Poetry Project is the last thing that we have on our agenda. And this is basically a conversation about whether this is still something that we want to pursue and how we want to pursue it, because
Yeah. Because
for
yeah, so I received an email, just a really brief email from someone in our community who wanted to know what happened to the sidewalk and is it going to be installed? And now I don't know if this person or someone in her family was a winner whose poem is supposed to be impressed in the sidewalk or not, but there's someone in the community who was asking about it. So I'm trying to get in touch with you guys to be able to answer that person to see if it's still a viable project or just where we're standing with this.
Well, does everyone have the background on what the poetry walk, how it happened?
And in fact, it came just before my time, so please enlighten us.
Okay. So just a second, I'm making one last note. Okay. So the Sidewalk Poetry Project. So this was part of an idea that the board put together to spend some of the reserve monies that we have, and also to improve access to the building, because there's not really a good sidewalk that leads to the building from Highway 61, and and going across the grass has, you know, significant ADA concerns. So initially, before the Highway 61 project incorporated it into that project, the idea was that the library was just going to do it by ourselves, and we were going to hire the contractor, and we were going to do a poem competition and pick the poems and have presses made like they do down in St. Paul in different neighborhoods, and then do it ourselves. And so we had the competition, we picked the poems, we had the presses made. We even got as far as hiring the contractor to do it. But the contractor never did the work. And the contractor took one of the forms to tested it out, figured out how to use it, and then never gave it back to us. So we have a couple of the forms floating around somewhere, and one of them is still kind of AWOL.
I think I think we have them back now, but I'd have to confirm how many total we have to be sure. But I think
one
we
of
have
them
them.
will look different than the others because it'll be it'll look like it has a little bit of concrete residue on it. That's the one that we're trying to get back.
No, we do have that back.
Oh, good.
We do have that back. The fellow brought it to Steve. Steve reported to us that he had it. Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that.
It's there. If Amanda should have everything in regard to the presses.
Cool. So that's really good news. So then what happened after that was that where we last left it was, my understanding was that the sidewalk project got rolled into the Highway 61 project for next year. So when the street is ripped up and the sidewalk is all redone in front of the library along Highway 61, that was when the additional sidewalk would be put in to the front door of the library. And that's when we would be doing all of the stamping with the poems, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my understanding of the project. I don't know if that is still true. So there probably is some information to hunt down, with Mike at City Hall to make sure that we can get that to happen. But I do know that sidewalk running from Highway 61 to the front door of the library was in the 90% plan. It was something that I saw on the 90% plan.
So ask Mike if our poetry sidewalk is still in the 90% plan.
Yep. I think that's probably the thing to do. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. And then a really great reward to come out of this is if the poetry sidewalk is still a project we would like to pursue and maybe on board for being installed as part of the Highway 61 project later in 2021, it qualifies for the legacy funding. it would be $3,000 to $5,000. They were estimating, Helen, I've been in contact with ALS about the fact that we've already got our puzzle tree and what the projections might be. But I've also asked them to vet this project because it is a public art, public works project, but we've done most of the work 4 years prior. But the state is actually very excited about this public art project. So the reason I would be super duper excited about it for 2021 from my view is that we could participate in this legacy program, have our sidewalk photographed and discussed in this compilation, and the work is done, the molds are here, the community would have an unveiling of their project, and on and on. So, but as long as you guys are still interested in the viability of the project, and I can talk to Mike about where the Highway 61 part comes into play.
I think that sounds like a great idea.
Yes.
Jay, oh, excuse me. Jay, is there a possibility of where it, I don't recall that there was a definite location for it. I think that was to come out of the Highway 61. And I also think that the maintenance people, the park people who handle the property in front of the library have some say too on the way that they go about cleaning keeping the walkway clear, and this would be an additional thing for them. And so it seems like that there was a combination of people that had their voices to be heard in relationship to how how that would be carried through. I don't know that there was ever, I mean, if we had a contractor, and it would seem like he wouldn't have signed a contract unless he had some idea where he was going to be putting it. But whether that was, maybe that's moot at this time.
There were two different plans. The plan that initially was made by the library board that was bid out for our own contract to start at the front door of the library, go down along the handicapped spots, and then to swing out towards the puzzle tree, and then connect at a right angle to the sidewalk. Just to the east of where the rock wall is.
Mm-hmm.
So it would kind of mimic the curve of the rock wall, and then come around and come and connect at a right angle to the sidewalk on Highway 61. That's what we bid out.
Okay.
I just pulled up the plans as per MnDOT, but of course it's an enormous file, and it's going to probably not let me zoom in on it very quickly. But that one, if I could get it to come up, I would share my screen and then show you what the proposal.
I don't need to know what it is. It isn't that I need to be informed where it's going to go. I just think that it needs to be clarified where it's going to go. That there is a plan for it, and maybe Amanda it would be valuable for her to know that, or have have access to it.
And we have a lot of files here. I just haven't gone digging. I thought I would start with a conversation.
Right.
Right.
Well, and so I'm looking at I can't figure out how to share my screen, but it looks like what the plan, the MnDOT plan, shows that sidewalk basically like a semicircle that runs from the corner, the 2nd Avenue West corner, around the wall in a solid curve, and then connecting to where the handicap spots are. So similar, but instead of rounding off and going straight at a 90-degree angle to the Highway 61, it connects at the corner. So it's pretty similar, but that's where the poetry walk is in the plan. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So cool. Does that Amanda, does that help you get an idea of?
Yeah, I'll start asking questions.
If you need my help asking questions, let me know, because I just went down and hunted some details down on the project today with Mike, and it was actually very helpful and very, very informative. So I can go and just make sure that we're all on the same page for that one. So I can help you, is what I'm saying.
Great, thanks.
Anything else with the poetry project, Poetry Sidewalk? I like your idea about the using the legacy funding for it. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then we don't have to go through all the work of creating another project. So,
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thanks, guys.
Yes,
Move
thank you very much.
adjourned.
If there is no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.